piece last year I done. I didn't really want to give it away. I wanted it for myself. It's certain pieces like that. It's hard to let go.
Yeah, you see them.
And you see something?
And there's a whole group of them, and they're all longing to come to life. But I won't live long enough for that, you know.
Well,
but it's lovely feeling.
So I suppose it was natural that she became an artist in a full-time. That's her livelihood now.
So you'd go into being an artist. Tell the truth. You will be an artist when you grow up. I'm an artist and you will be an artist.
I can assure you, if I did that, she would not be an artist.
Do you have a train set when you were a wee kid?
I had, yeah. I had particular interest in.
So you enjoy playing trains with us here now, I suppose? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's great to get paid for it. And they do a marvellous job. And sometimes the circumstances are difficult. You know, it's a lovely day today.
Beautiful today.
But every day is not lovely.
I have them made of rubber and made of different wood and iron and everything like that. But I've never seen one made of pure cowhide.
I have to say, I've never seen one either before.
No.
Some say that the name of the place that I'm in today derives from the fact that over 1,000 years ago, Brian Boru's elder brother fought a battle nearby in which he defeated the O'Rourke's of Cavan and claimed the territory for himself. Others will tell you that the name belongs to a subclan of the O'Farrells, who were the undisputed rulers of these lands in the 14th century and were still here at the time of the Cromwellian confiscation in the 1650s. Whether a dispute of that nature will ever be resolved to everyone's satisfaction, I can't say. But what I can say is that whatever the outcome, the name will remain unchanged, because both stories result in the use of a very distinguished Irish surname, and I have to say that I feel very much at home here. Welcome to Ballymahon, on the banks of the River Inny and the eastern shore of Lough Ree in County Longford. There's a kind of sweeping grandeur to the main street of Ballymahon, its extravagant width designed to accommodate the livestock herded to the markets of bygone years. The market house now serves as a public library, housing mementos of the town's literary heroes, and as a backdrop to Eamon O'Doherty's sculpture of Oliver Goldsmith, who, as a young man living here in the mid-1700s, would have earned many a free tankard in the town's hostelries, spinning yarns and playing his flute. That would have been in his busking days, before he found fame as a writer and before the industrial age found Ballymahon. Then thatch gave way to slated roof, market stalls to established traders, and the slow grind of cart wheels to the bustle and roar of commercial traffic. Even so, even in the early 1900s, the whole town could fall silent of a sudden, as it did when Count John McCormick stood on the steps of the Shuldham Arms Hotel, and his sweet tenor voice carried all the way up to St Matthew's Catholic Church at one end of the town, and down to St Catherine's Church of Earn Spire at the other. Ballymahon never was the deserted village of Oliver Goldsmith's famous protest poem. Yet as you walk down to the riverbank from the main street, it's tempting to wonder if any part of this scene inspired the lines, "The never-failing brook, the busy mill, the decent church that topped the neighbouring hill." Yes, all the elements are here, but only the never-failing River Inny was there in Goldsmith's day. Still it rushes to join the Shannon at Lough Ree a few miles further west, no longer required to power the mill or to feed the eel fishery, conserving all that energy to quicken the pulses of canoeists and kayakers and the whitewater thrill-seekers. But the water that had the most dynamic effect on the fortunes of Ballymahon doesn't move at all. It arrived from Dublin in 1817 and it's been here ever since. The Royal Canal is by far the most important aspect of Ballymahon's industrial heritage. My introduction to it is courtesy of Pat Kilduff, a horse called Kate, and one of Connolly's old traps that Pat has lovingly restored. And we're sitting in one of these traps which was made originally, according to this wee thing, by Connolly's.
Or Connolly, Ballymahon.
Tell me about Connolly's.
There were trap builders in Ballymahon and coach builders in Ballymahon. I got this trap and it was red rotten.
It was rotten?
Red rotten, and I got Frank Ward to restore it. So he restored what? It's a tub trap.
A tug trap?
Tub trap.
Tub trap. So we're sitting in a tub, is that the idea?
Tub trap, that's the name.
We're two men in a tub.
Yeah, I don't know really what that means, but it's a tub trap built by Connolly in Ballymahon.
Right.
It was completely full of woodworm when I got it.
So what is original about it? Just the frame of the thing?
The frame is original. It's the old, and that door and the hinges and all this is.
And the lamps, them lamps, they're brass lamps.
They're original?
They're original.
So what were Connolly's using? I mean, they were selling these in the town, right? What are you talking about?
114 years ago, you're talking about.
Right.
Traps and carts and horses were the main. There wasn't too many cars out that time, I imagine.
Before your time, Pat?
Long before mine.
Long before your time, okay.
Yeah.
But so we imagine Ballymahon way back at the turn of the 20th century, and this would have been the only form of transport.
That's what they went to Mass with, and the children went to communion, confirmation, and probably to weddings. And
right, so it was used for fancy occasions?
Fancy occasion, and going around a trap,
yeah. So I can imagine when the canal was here, the pony and trap got up alongside.
The horses brought the barge down along here, and they were pulled by horses. If you got up under the bridge there, you'd see the track of the rope on it.
Right.
And the canal company had around every turn, they had an acre or two of land to rest the horses.
Well, they weren't expected to go for miles and miles
and miles. No, about 2 or 3 miles they went to there.
And they changed horses?
They changed their horses, changed them over.
Well, listen, I really enjoyed that, and fair play to Kate. She started doing the job that the old barge horses used to do back in the day. Right?
Oh, yeah.
The massive engineering project known as the Royal Canal began in Dublin City in 1790. 90 miles, 46 locks, and 27 years later, the Royal Canal finally arrived at the Shannon Banks in County Longford, having employed many thousands of people in its construction and transforming the commerce of the towns and villages through which it passed, including, of course, Ballymahon. At its busiest peak in the 1830s, it was delivering up to 100,000 tonnes of freight and some 40,000 passengers each year, all in horse-drawn barges. But in 1845, the canal was bought over by the Midland Great Western Railway Company, who built their train tracks alongside it. That was to signal the demise of the Royal Canal as a viable transport business, and it struggled to survive until its final closure in 1961. Over the next 14 years or so, the 145 kilometres of canal became a post-industrial wasteland, clogged up, overgrown and neglected. But in 1974, a movement began in Dublin to breathe new life into the canal, to clean it up and open it again for navigation. That movement took nearly as long as the original canal took to reach Ballymahon. But when it did, it found willing volunteers like Michael Greeley and his fellow members of the Royal Canal Amenity Group.
We started our voluntary group here in 1993. We got volunteers out to... You couldn't walk along this footpath here.
All overgrown?
All overgrown. The bridge back behind you there was completely covered over with ivy and trees had grown over. Right. Remember, it was derelict for 14 years.
Right.
So we set about cleaning the pathways, cutting back briars in the ditches and all that.
That was just for access to the bank, in other words?
Yeah, this was ahead of the OPW who were restoring the canal at the time.
Right.
So we had all this work done ahead of them.
And you were all motivated the same way. You all said, right, we have this piece of heritage on our front door, and it's getting sadly neglected.
Yeah, right. And as I said to you, it was derelict. So our ambition was to promote the restored canal for walking, fishing, boating, canoeing, and cycling. You know, that if we had paths along, we could cycle on it.
Well, you've done a magnificent job, I have to say, because you've landscaped huge parts of it, cleared away this path now is in great condition.
Well,
and the water looks lovely as well.
Well, thankfully, a lot of the early groundwork was done by voluntary groups.
Yeah.
But in 1993, the government set up local community employment schemes, and we put in for a number of people to apply on the scheme. And great credit is due to the community employment workers, past and present. You know, they maintain the canals and the interest in keeping the area. Now we have a lovely walk that stretches along here where we're walking, and it goes down to the Longford Bridge and back into Ballymahon. And from 7 o'clock in the morning till late at night, it's used extensively. You know, everybody's health conscious now and wants to get.
Well, it's a wonderful amenity to have, and you can just picture how it would be a wonderful amenity to attract people to the area as well.
Yeah,
definitely. Beautiful. Well done. Congratulations.
The entire length of the Royal Canal, all 145 kilometres of it from Dublin to the Shannon, has been reopened and available for navigation and other recreation since 2010. It's now under the guardianship of Waterways Ireland, and both they and Michael's local group would dearly love to see more boat traffic returning to Brannigan Harbour here in the near future. But preserving the heritage of the canal involves more than just maintaining the waterway. You can see the prodigious effort that went into restoring the old ticket office and pressing it into modern service. But there's also a wealth of history and lore connected to Ballymahon's relationship with the Royal Canal over the past 200 years. And Michael Greeley has taken pains to try to preserve as much of that as he can for posterity.
The last boats to cease trading was in 1951.
Right.
And two boats operated, trading boats. One was Leach's from Killucan and the other was Cody. He was a Dublin man.
Right.
He brought stuff down from Dublin. But a gentleman, an elderly gentleman, is now deceased, Christy Roach, wrote an article for me once. I was trying to find out stories about the canal, and he said he remembered Mr. Cody, small Dublin man, he always used to wear a bowler hat. And he'd walk the 2 kilometres into Ballymahon, and he'd go up and down the street ringing a bell, and in his best Dublin accent, "The boat's in, the boat's in." Of course, there was a scurry then for asses and carts and horses and carts
to go and collect
the stuff, because he wasn't going to stay there all day.
So he was transporting stuff that had been ordered from Dublin, would that be the idea?
At that time, 30s, 40s, 50s, we had 19 pubs in Ballymahon. Believe it or believe it not, I think we have 7 now.
Yeah, right.
But each pub had a grocery shop.
Right.
So there was a constant supply.
Right.
Everybody shopped local that time.
Of course, yes.
But there was a story. The guy, he's since deceased, but he was a good man to tell a yarn. But he said he was only a young fella, and he had a lorry, one of the first lorries, the hard-rimmed lorries, and he'd collect stuff at the harbour. But he says at times there'd be boxes of loose sausages. Sausages come down from Mullingar. And he said I used to siphon off a couple of sausages. No, siphon is there.
Yeah.
He says I'd put them through a wire, I'd put them up the exhaust of the old truck, and I'd wrap it around the top of the exhaust. And it was 18 miles to Castletown-Gagan. And he says I had a time to perfection. At the bottom of Skay Hill, I'd have to turn the lorry for Castletown-Gagan. I'd stop the lorry, pull out the sausages. And he says, I think I was the first around here that had barbecue sausages for breakfast.
He used to exhaustively cook the sausages? Yeah. They must have tasted horrible.
No,
you know?
believe it or believe it not.
He said they were nice. Yeah.
Somehow the idea of sausages barbecued in the exhaust of a lorry doesn't really appeal. On a more personal and poignant note, Michael recalled the family story of 2 great aunts who, as young women, had to haul their suitcases across the fields to Brannigan Harbour, whence they got the barge to Dublin, thence to America, never to be seen again in Ireland. On a much, much happier note, what lies beneath the boglands of Longford. I only discovered recently that peat briquettes were being made in Ireland as early as 1855. But it's really only since 1946, when the Turf Development Board became what we now know as the semi-state body called Bord na Móna, that the peat briquette became the staple fuel of rural households that didn't cut their own turf. Bord na Móna has played a vital role for decades, fuelling ESB power stations and fueling the economy in a wider sense. There are huge tracts of bogland between Ballymahon and the shores of Lough Ree, and generations of Longford people have earned their livelihood turf cutting on a colossal scale. And it's the sheer size and scale of the operation, harvesting millions of tons of what is nowadays called milled peat, that has driven Bord na Móna's technological development and their endless laying of railway tracks across this strangely beautiful barren landscape. It's a technology that often requires deft and delicate handling, something that operations manager Mick Cahill, even after all these years in the job, can still admire.
I think you could cut the top of an egg with that machine.
Well, there's no doubt about that. Those drivers are very skilled and very dedicated to the job, and they do a marvellous job. And sometimes the circumstances are difficult. It's a lovely day today.
Beautiful today.
But every day is not lovely.
I would say you come out with half the bog sticking to your feet when you come out of here.
Absolutely, and we're committed to keep our customer, keep the ESB supplied here. So it's 24/7 and it's 365. When the company started here in the Midlands, the people who came to work here initially would have been small farmers and local labourers.
Yeah.
And they learned the trade in the early days in the company, and the company spent a lot of time training and so on craftspeople.
Would a lot of work, excuse me, would have been used by spade in those days, do you think?
Well, the early
days?
those drains when they were made early, they were made by hand. The job only followed, the mechanisation only followed afterwards.
Yeah.
And that technology was used, and it kept developing. The company itself built its own machines for a long number of years. Indeed, the locomotives which had come across that travelled on the narrow gauge line, we'd have built a lot of those ourselves.
There's different levels here, Mick, now at the moment. We're standing in one, and this one's been made for the track. That goes along. This is an amazing piece of work here. You're literally laying a train track in front of our eyes, and this goes on all the time here.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. This process continues over the summer months. Of course, we take 12, 13 crops of peat off these fields, and we make it into one central pile.
This is the pile beside us here.
That's correct. Yeah.
And that's all going to be put into these wagons. Is that what you call them? Or
wagons.
Wagons.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the only way to get the stuff out, really, or the most convenient way to get the stuff.
In this case, yes. This process that was used at the time, because of the nature of the bogs, and it wouldn't be easy to get.
Big trucks.
It wouldn't. It's not feasible. No, this was an ingenious system that was used.
Right. So you're going to be world leaders in a lot of the ways. Really,
absolutely. In terms of narrow gauge rail line, there's a particular interest from a lot of the small rail enthusiasts all over Europe, and they come and they visit us every year here, and they're like a family.
How many miles of track could you lay if you had to put it all out end to end?
Oh God, it would be thousands of miles. There's a lot of miles. There's a lot of miles. Right. When you put the whole of it together, if you assemble it all in the one length, it would be a long line. I'm not sure what it is, to be honest, but
did you have a train set? Did you have a train set when you were a wee kid?
I had, I had particular interest in it.
So you're enjoying playing trains with us here now, I suppose, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's great to get paid for it.
I referred earlier to the endless laying of railway tracks, but of course it's not endless at all. The days of this uniquely linear landscape and its narrow gauge railway are numbered, and Ballymahon will have ceased peat extraction from Irish boglands by the year 2030. The environmental concerns of modern generations, a growing awareness of the inherent value of pristine bogland, not to mention the ongoing depletion of the finite resource itself, have all combined to steer Ballymahona's technological momentum towards renewable energy production. Things like sustainable biomass, wind and solar power. All the cutaway bogland is being returned to nature, with assisted rehabilitation applied in environmentally sensitive ways. That could well see Ballymahon's workers planting trees instead of digging up their long dead remains. Every layer of peat removed, of course, takes us back another 1,000 years into the past, to ground that our ancestors walked upon. And archaeologists are frequently called in when those ancestors have left traces of themselves. In the 1980s, while they were harvesting peat at nearby Corlay, they made a truly momentous discovery. The well-preserved remains of a toher or trackway, a wooden road stretching across the bog that had been laid down by our Iron Age forebears more than 2,000 years ago, a precursor of the modern bog-crossing tracks of Ballymahon. As a result of that discovery, the Office of Public Works decreed a stately knowledge dome, rising almost like a mirage out of the cutaway bog and surrounding scrub. A quite palatial interpretive centre with a wonderfully imagined reconstruction, a permanent exhibition of the whole excavation, and of course a length of the actual Corlay trackway itself, preserved in its original location. Donald McInvaha is a planning officer for Longford County Council, but the importance of this discovery, he will tell you, goes far beyond any county boundaries. This is an archaeological find of international significance.
Yeah, correct. It was discovered in 1985, and they finished excavating in 1991, and then in this exact same position at that level. And then they decided they'd build this wonderful building around it.
It's extraordinarily well preserved, given the fact that they had this massive construction to build all around it. And the point of this is it to preserve it? Is there an atmospheric thing here or something?
Yeah,
like
the
that?
temperatures are controlled in here. But to be fair, the timbers were specially preserved in advance. and dipped in wax and a special chemical, so they're preserved in themselves.
Right.
But you have to keep them at a certain temperature at the same time.
The top planks, oak?
Oak, solid oak, all the top, and birch underneath. There's approximately, they estimate about 300 oak trees and 300 birch trees. Quite a huge operation to cut them back in 147, 48 BC.
So over 2,000 years ago?
Over 2,000 years ago, yeah.
And that continues on out there beyond this building?
It was 1 kilometre long from the dry land here just behind us, heading across the bog to another section of dry land, little island, and then another section across the bog.
Right. And to this day, nobody really knows why they did it?
No.
Seriously?
Well, we've no records from 148 BC.
Right.
But there's a number of theories behind it. One, that it was for transport purposes across the bog. But in more modern times, begin to think that maybe it was for ritual purposes. Or the latest one then is that it might have been for military conquering purposes. And then there's an old legend, that, the wooing of Athene, that Emir was given the task of building this trackway across the bog.
By her dad?
Yes, that's right, the king. Yeah.
In other words, if you want to be worthy of my daughter,
you've got to do all these, fulfill all these tasks.
So is it a bit like the labours of Hercules or something?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
So did they do it over a long period of time, or was it done?
Strangely enough, it was all done in 1 year, which for the Iron Age, we didn't have chainsaws like we have.
No.
So axes and very basic equipment, and in 1 year they cut 300 oaks, 300 birch, split the logs, transported them here. They weren't cut here locally, they were cut about 1,000 yards behind us.
Right.
So again, wagons and carriages to transport them here and then lay them down. So you're talking about a serious operation with a serious amount of people involved.
You're talking about, sort of jokingly, a kind of Iron Age board and Mona scale operation?
Exactly, yeah.
Right. So they built it, I mean, it's broad enough, I take it, for chariots and
Yes.
heavy transport, really, isn't it?
It's 3 to 3.5 metres wide.
Right.
You could drive a tractor across that today.
Even today?
Yeah,
Even
but
today.
in those days, obviously, it was horses or chariots, so we suspect chariots must have crossed it.
And it was necessary, I presume, because the ground that it stood on just wouldn't take any of that weight or any of that.
No, absolutely no way.
Dangerous place, really, wouldn't it?
A wet bog, you couldn't go across it.
Yeah.
Now, you might have found a way if you were walking, but any form of heavy transport just wouldn't cross it.
And it would have been bogland even back 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. But it is a massive undertaking. It's marvellous that it's been preserved like this. The kind of sad thing about it, you were saying to me earlier on as well, is it didn't actually last that long.
Yeah.
And it kind of eventually, because of where it was placed, the bog just built over the top of it again. It sank into the bog.
Yeah, absolutely. The weight of it sank within 10 years. But those people in those days would have known that.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, they weren't naive.
They were familiar with their natural world and their natural technologies, unlike us today.
Yeah.
So our modern mind looking at it saying, why would you do that? What a waste of time. But they knew exactly what they were doing. And whatever it was, they didn't care. So if it was for religious ceremonial purposes, they were like praying to their God. We have to put this down to thank our God for whatever good we get out of this world.
So whatever it was important to them.
Yes.
And we have to acknowledge that now.
We acknowledge its importance by emulating the deed. Except that we're now very clear as to the purpose of the modern tower, which continues from the end of the exposed ancient trackway inside the building until it reaches one of the irrigation ponds used to re-water the bogland, thus preserving the Iron Age tower, which is still there some 3 metres under our feet. That purpose is to allow access into the very heart of a landscape that inspires nature lovers, ramblers and artists like Francis Kelleher. Francis hails from Galway originally, and Donal himself is a Dub by birth, but both of them, as they put it, have gone native long ago, beguiled by the people, the place and the subtle charms of this Longford bogscape. Francis's daughter Orla Kelleher now plies her trade as an artist in Dublin, but it's here, as a young child at her mother's side, that she cut her artistic teeth.
And no matter what the weather is, this place is really very, very interesting. You have all the layers on the landscape, you know, and you have the colours of the beige and the tan and the fawn and umber and the sienna and the moss green and the various greens, and it goes on and on and on, and then you have this magnificent sky. Now today it's just a blue sky. You know, the colours in the sky will always complement the landscape. But you have all this magnificent space, you know, it's expansive and
Flat is good sometimes as well.
Well, I was going to say flat. I mean, flat, you can see for a very long way.
you can.
And secondly, there is this sense, I don't know if you're sensitive to it or not, you know, you're in an ancient place.
Yes.
Does
Right.
that feed onto your
It
perception
does.
of it as well?
I don't know why, but I always feel a tremendous sense of security in the bog and peace.
So if I pictured you and Orla out here, did you bring your out painting with you whenever you came out? Were you one of these, what is it, open air artists where you would sit out?
Plein air.
Really, plein air, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the most lovely way to paint or to sketch or draw, and to paint if you can. And I do that quite a lot. I did that quite a lot. But since Orla was that high, since she was 5 or 6, she would come out sketching with me, and she was happy out, always was, you know.
Yeah.
So I suppose it was natural that she became an artist in a full-time, that's her livelihood now.
So you'd under into being an artist. Tell the truth. I mean, you will be an artist when you grow up. I'm an artist and you will be an artist.
I can assure you, if I did that, she would not be an artist. No.
Obviously.
No, she very much has her own mind, of course.
We're on a trackway now, Donal, which is, you know, I feel like a modern imitation of what was here before.
Exactly.
Is this the end of it? Are there other trackways got?
Well, this is the end of the modern trackway related to the Corley Trackway.
Aye.
But we in Longford are working on what we call the Mid-Shannon Wilderness Park. So this area is going to be naturally regenerated, plus Ballymahon will do a bit of planting.
Right.
And then we're going to put a trackway across it, a modern trackway, and it's for walking and cycling and getting out onto the bog and enjoying the bog. And we'll have lakes, ponds and dryland bog sections. So it'll be a wonderful natural landscape.
Big scale planning. You took your inspiration from those guys who lit that trackway here 2,000 years ago, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, you have to remember, in total, this bog complex is 20,000 hectares. Now, 20,000 hectare parkland in Europe is huge.
Right.
And that's what we have here in the Midlands and in Longford. This 20,000 hectare parkland for everybody to come and enjoy and get back to nature again.
A small county in itself.
Absolutely, a vast area.
Yeah.
It seems that the bog has preserved not only the Iron Age trackway, but also the kind of vision, energy and imagination that went into its making in the first place. But the bog seems to do that all the time, yielding up ancient wood to fuel the imagination of modern artists. The bog oak sculptors of Newton. As the crow flies, it's about 8 miles due west from Ballymahon to Barley Harbour on the banks of Loch Ree. Assuming the crow flies in a straight line, he might just have missed the little village of Newton Cashel nearby. And that would be a pity, because there's much of interest to see here. Strange and wonderful beings inhabiting the place, and a disused limestone quarry that has undergone a kind of transformation. Not bad for a group of part-time workers on a fast community employment scheme. Mind you, they did have the creative input of an artist or two, including that of a local man who just happens to be one of the most renowned wood sculptors in the country. Michael Casey's bog oak creations, crafted from ancient trees preserved by the Longford bogland for thousands of years, have ended up in the display cabinets of the great and the good, visiting dignitaries and heads of state, those to whom the powers that be have decided to give something distinctively Irish and unique. Many of his larger sculptures grace our public spaces, hospitals and churches at home and abroad. Thankfully, he's kept a sufficient number to make a visit to the workshop and gallery that he now shares with his son Kevin at Barley Harbour a memorable experience. The Casey's gallery space is small, but then it's really only a portal into the immensity of the shared imagination of father and son. And they share it with us. A hollowed-out piece of elmwood or the gaping jaw of a basking shark.
That's my pension. I don't sell those, you know.
But I mean, I'm looking over at the wall over here as well.
The wall is fantastic. I'm pleased with that, yeah.
And is that a work in progress or is that
It is. We do about 2 feet every year. And I was down, where was it, at the sea in Clare, and I saw a sea wall like that, right beside the sea, where the stones were beautifully washed. And then between each field they had a thing called a sheep run.
Right. That's just a little lintel across the
Yeah,
top,
lintel across where the sheep used to come through, yeah. So it was lovely to see the thing coming into being.
What is it about it that appealed to you most when you first started? Was it the grain of the wood? Was it the shapes that it suggested? Or?
I don't know. I started working in wood at 14 years of age, so they let me go to the technical college, you know. And I loved it.
Was that carpentry though?
Carpentry.
It wasn't sculpture?
Not sculpture, no. I wish I'd had, but I was nearly 40 when I began to do sculpture.
Really?
Yeah. Then we discovered the bog oak. We were cycling to Athlone, myself and Ellie and Kevin, and there was a farmer pulling this big tree out of the bog. And I could see it was black, and I wondered what the hell it was, you know. He broke off a piece and gave it to me. When I brought it home, I began to pare it down, and it was black. So that started the thing off, you know, about, 1970. So ever since, I'm fascinated when you hold that oak in your hand and realise how old it is, you know.
5,000 years.
It's fantastic, yeah.
We must, I don't know, maybe humans relate to wood because it was an organic thing or something like that.
I don't know, but the people from the Arts Council would say to me, can you imagine yourself working in bronze or silver or stone? You'd be so better valued and known, you know, but we would never change from it, you know.
No. Is there something about the wood itself that you just
when
like
you
working
love
with?
wood and when you're growing up with that, you know, I never. So I'm not going to change now at my age, you know.
Well, do you still work?
A little bit, yeah. My back, the chainsaw work got me, and the shoulders.
Right. So it's heavy work at times.
It is. So I get a fella to do it for me. Yeah.
All right.
I have to.
The basic tools you have your hands, obviously, and there's a lot of skill involved in that. But it strikes me that you also need the imagination above all.
That's more important.
More important.
You can get skilled people, but it's so hard to get the person with imagination.
Are there times when you have very little to do to the wood, except treat it?
That was that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you saw it like that and you thought, that's a scene.
This is it. And another time, you see out behind, you'll see the shed and there's pieces, 10 or 15 years there, and you never get. All of a sudden, then you might walk out at night. Yeah. You see them.
And you see something?
And there's a whole group of them, and they're all longing to come to life. But I won't live long enough for that, you know.
Well,
but it's lovely feeling.
But that's what you think you're doing. You're kind of creating.
Giving them a new life.
Giving them a new life.
From the trees, you know.
I understand.
When Michael Casey does eventually decide to down tools for the last time, which I hope will not be for many years yet to come, he will do so happy in the knowledge that he has passed the baton on to his son Kevin. That baton is in here somewhere, and Kevin finds it regularly, turning it into the slender slivers of bird-like grace that have become his own trademark. But he also takes on large-scale projects like this grave monument that he's now preserving with several sprayings of linseed oil. What Michael has really imparted to Kevin in the time they've worked together, apart from the skilled hands and the discerning eye, of course, is a wealth of knowledge and experience, the sheer joy of breathing new life into ancient wood, and above all, I think, patience.
The bog shapes these pieces naturally, so the way I work, some pieces I work naturally, what the natural shape has come from the bog. Other pieces I will impose my own ideas on it, if you understand. So in a case like this is a memorial for a grave, and the people like the idea of it's to depict the two hands rising up.
And they do look like hands.
They do,
at the top.
yeah, they do at the top, yeah.
So a lot of these pieces suggest themselves in the sense that
they do, yes, oh yeah.
I want to be hands.
And you need a bit of imagination as well.
Well, this is it. But even to see that, because when it comes into you,
oh yeah, it's in its raw state.
It's not jumping out and saying, look at the shape of me.
No.
Something like these.
You'll see some of these pieces here, these are very rough and raw. They've come in from the bog like that.
Right.
They're left there to dry. When they come from the bog, they're about 80% moisture, very, very wet.
Really?
And it takes about 3 to 4 years natural air drying.
3 to 4 years?
Yeah.
You can't work on them until
you can work on it, but to be able to put it into a house, indoor, room temperature is 20 degrees. If the moisture isn't gone out of the timber, it will crack. It'll split. Yeah. Generally, 10 to 12% is our level that we want the pieces to be at.
Right.
So,
moisture, you mean?
Moisture, yeah.
Right.
When it's wet, it's nice and soft, easy to cut.
Right.
But when it's dry, it's nearly like steel. You would have to sharpen the saw many times.
Get away.
Yeah.
So it's hard stuff.
Yeah.
At this stage, it's all raw material to you.
It's raw material. We don't. Some pieces are left here, and you might pass by every few days or weeks or whatever, and you'll see nothing, and maybe one day you get inspiration, and you'll see it all of a sudden, turn it another way or turn it left or right, and then something will appear out of it. Like a piece like this isn't as interesting as, say, a piece like this.
Yeah, yeah.
When you see that there now, like, it's very hard to see at the moment, but it's something maybe two figures, maybe a mother and child in the future. I don't know.
Yes,
Whereas this piece here is a different part of the tree, and it's not as interesting, but all this has
I'm sure by the time you're finished with it,
all this loose material has to come off. So the shape may appear from that after you clean it out even.
I mean, this is all bog oak, right? And
Yes.
I'm going to take your word for that, because I could not possibly tell the difference between this pile and this one in the corner.
Yeah.
And that's you.
This is all bog yew. I just keep them separate for.
But how do you tell the difference, Kevin? I mean, seriously.
Well, like with the bog oak, you can see it's black, but then you can see pieces in here. These are all, as I say, in the rough form.
This is all you and
This
here.
is all bog yew, yeah.
Okay.
Like there's a lovely piece now.
Oh, look at that, yeah. And you can see the reddishness, can't you?
can see the reddish brown in
that's
that.
been in the bog for the same length of time.
It has, yes. And there's a lovely grain in the bog yew. Lovely grain in the bog yew. You don't really see it there when it's polished up. What you would have seen in the studio, it really brings out the grain in the timber.
But do you know when you see the grain and you realise that was alive and growing. Well,
Yes.
More than 5,000 years ago.
Yeah,
'cause
well,
it's 5,000 years
exactly.
in the bog.
Yeah.
So before all of Ireland's history, as we understand it,
That's it,
this
indeed.
boy was grown in the country.
Yeah.
So that's going to make a nice piece at some stage. This would sound like a very silly question. Do you actually still enjoy it?
Oh, I do indeed,
Take
yeah.
pleasure?
Yeah, I do indeed. Yeah, I'm my own boss. I live right beside where I work. I only have to walk 20, 30 feet, and I'm at my workplace. No commuting or anything like that, so that's the great thing. And I have the lake beside me here. If I fancy going out in the lake, and if I'm fed up sanding, I'll go off for a spin in the boat or something like that.
It sounds like a wonderful lifestyle. I mean, I'm sure there are good days and bad days and everything else, but you also must, Kevin, get enormous kind of sense of satisfaction when you look at a beautiful thing.
You do, yeah. Because like pieces that you work really hard on, and there was a piece last year I done. I didn't really want to give it away. I wanted it for myself. Certain pieces like that, it's hard to let go.
And that I can understand. It must be difficult to part with something that's been 5,000 years in the making in the bog before you brought it into the light of day and gave it a whole new existence. It would be wrong to give the impression that the whole of southwest Longford is comprised of bogland. Far from it. In the countryside around the village of Keena, the earth is for turning rather than burning, and they've been doing that here for many generations. Cornfields, flails and cowhide hammers. When it leaves Ballymahon, the Royal Canal takes a fairly sharp turn to the north to join the River Shannon at Clondra at the top of Loch Ree. In the course of that journey, it passes alongside the little village of Keena, which is situated near the edge of the bogland on which you'll find the Corley Trackway. The village is dominated, I think it's fair to say, by a most impressive and wondrously constructed clock tower, built in 1878 as a memorial to Lawrence Harmon, King Harmon of Newcastle House in Ballymahon. It's a monument befitting a king, as you can see, but one of the most impressive things about this tower is that the clock actually still works, and I can aver was telling the time accurately, according to my watch at least, at the time of my visit. I was passing through en route to the more fertile land to the east of Keena, and it's here that you'll encounter the extraordinary preoccupation of generations of the Egan family, which is, in a nutshell, to preserve as many aspects of the traditional farming methods of the area as they can. Competition standard ploughing is Joe Egan's forte, and here at the top of the lane he's breaking in a new field as well as breaking in a couple of inexperienced horses. Although to my untutored eye, these sure-footed workers seem to know the drill pretty well. At the top of the next lane, you'll find the entrance to the original 18th century farmyard and what must be one of the most comprehensive private collections of vintage agricultural machinery in the country. Eamon Egan understands the complicated tasks these contraptions were devised to perform, I have to believe, because he keeps them in a perfectly functioning state of repair. The only thing missing that you would require to set them to work is a pair of horses, and we know where they're to be found. Back to the bottom of the original laneway, and it's here you'll find Paddy Egan's reconstructed Granny's kitchen. A treasure trove of bygones and bric-a-brac, household utensils and farm implements, the function of which is fast fading from memory, and about which Paddy loves to puzzle people. Paddy himself is worthy of preservation. A renowned broadcaster on local radio, a social historian of great repute, an occasional poet and writer, and above all, a walking repository of the knowledge of how things used to work.
What have you in here now, Paddy?
I have wheat, and this is the wheat that was used way back 1870 to make the brown bread. This is a kitchen appliance that was screwed onto the kitchen table, and the woman at the house got up early in the morning and she ground enough wheat or oats. We can use oats as well, for oats to make the porridge.
Get away.
And we have the oats as well, and she could grind the oats to make the porridge, fresh meal, or she could grind the wheat to make the brown bread.
And she just hand-turned it?
Hand-turned it, and there's the wheat and there's the flour as it was.
Oh, that's lovely.
Now that we can do it as fine as we want.
Okay, how do you do that? Do you tighten it up or something?
I can tighten it up here,
right,
and I can grind it real fine, but most people would like it broken, not fine.
I see what you mean.
That's it now.
Kind of rough, in other words.
Oh yes, that's wheat and meal, and you can eat that if you want to know. That's organic, the very best wheat you can get.
That's good stuff.
That's good stuff.
Were you telling me that this machine that you're using now is the only one of its kind in the country?
It's the only one that I would love to meet someone who would have another one. Because I have looked at shows in every one of the 32 counties, and I never saw one.
You never saw one before?
I never saw one. I saw one of those.
Yeah.
That's a sister grinder, but I never saw one of those, and I've been at all the shows all over Ireland.
And this does the same job as that one there?
That's the same firm, same design, everything. That is a coffee grinder.
A coffee grinder?
A coffee grinder.
A very old coffee grinder?
A very old coffee grinder, 1873.
My goodness.
And the date is on it.
Right.
I've seen them made of rubber.
Right.
I have them made of rubber,
right,
and made of different wood and iron and everything like that. But I've never seen one made of pure cowhide.
I have to say, I've never seen one either before.
No.
Right.
The belt is after coming off, but how...
I know the principle of that one.
No,
anyway.
that's the seed fiddle there.
That's the
now,
seed fiddle.
And the rest of them are all sleighings from different counties in Ireland. You have, this is the Cavan sleighing, and this one here is the West of Ireland sleighing, what they call the breast sleighing.
Right.
And here we have what is known as the Kitog sleighing. If you look at the two wings, they're on the different sides. The Kitog sleighing and the other sleighing.
That's for your left foot and your right foot?
Your right foot and your left foot. And here we have a very important little bit. We'll take this one here. It's a better looking one. This is the flail that was used for thrashing the corn. And this is the Crackenaskin. And
well, it should be the Crackenaskin.
It should be the Crackenaskin.
In other words, the eel skin.
The eel skin was caught in the month of June, and it was put up the chimney of the Hearthstone until October, and it was cured. And at that time, it was the hardest known substance you could get.
You couldn't snap it.
Couldn't break it. It was used for tying boots. It was used for making harness.
Yeah.
But it was also used for joining that. Now, those leather straps wouldn't last for one day.
Right.
But the eel skin, Crackenaskin, would last for a whole season. And he could flail away for 3 months, and that was the bulletin, made of holly or ash, and this was made of, and it had to have a bend in it, was made of sally. And you had to learn how to use it, because if you didn't, you would hit yourself in the back of the head.
Or somebody standing beside you.
So you had to make a full turn, and you had flat down on it like that, and let it turn in your hands when you were doing it that way.
So this is, what did you call this again?
A ball and iron.
A ball and iron.
And yes, that was for used in the stables for opening. It had to have a strong handle for opening a horse's mouth. You push it in that way, you twisted it that way, his bottom jaw come in there, and you put your hand through it. You could work on his back teeth, you could work down his neck, but it was also used with cows.
Right.
Maybe for taking a potato out of their neck, or if they were choking or anything, you put that in and you
So
could
that's for
open their mouth.
opening an animal's
It's for
mouth.
opening an animal's mouth, you put that, you twisted that when you could have a firm hold on him
Aye.
and he couldn't move.
Well, you'd nearly have somebody having a firm hold on him, because I
You
can't
would.
imagine too many animals being happy with that.
Well,
being thrust into
you
their
could
mouth.
break your arm if you weren't careful.
Yeah.
If you
So
give a
it's-
twist.
It's for putting your arm into the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Would a vet use that, or would it?
That would be a veterinary tool of 60 years ago.
I've
There are different ways of doing it now.
Never seen anything like that before. I
No,
must
that's
say.
it. So that's it. And there's another one there, a very important little lad from the time. That was a little thing for catching a bull.
Ah.
You had this, we'll say.
See, that's
the
the
bull
ring. That's the ring on the bull's nose,
yeah,
right?
and you put that across.
Right.
And you put it up that way, and you
Right.
let it go, and you had it.
And you had him. Very good.
That was for catching a bull,
Very good. Very
for
good.
using the bull ring.
Right.
Now the other ones, then there's the sheep hook.
This thing is for sheep.
That's for catching sheep. That's
Okay.
how the bishop got his
crook-
title, the bishop's crook.
crozier
that's what's
or
happened.
crozier,
And
right.
that's for pulling weeds. And
Right.
that's a tatching needle there for tatching and a
Right.
hay knife.
Good Lord.
Now you just want to get a quick shot here if you want to do it.
Inside the Granny's kitchen.
Granny's kitchen.
Whoop, watch yourself.